Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Coach, the Professional Coaching Podcast with me, your host, Teresa Brooks. And as always, you know, I like to bring you guests from varied backgrounds with all kinds of different experiences, and we talk it through, we figure out what's going on, and we really take a chew on the fat on the industry as well. And I have got such a wonderful, wonderful person to do that with today. I'd love to introduce Gemma Went. Now, Gemma is an online business mentor, mindset coach, and energy practitioner. And she is far from a newbie. She brings 22 years of experience. And I was actually following Gemma way before I was a coach. She was one of the first people that I followed when she was solely into social media. So we're going to dig in today. But first of all, welcome, Gemma.
Oh, thank you, my darling. I'm so thrilled to be here. We've been trying to get this in the diary for ages, haven't we?
Yes, and you know what? It all falls in at the right time. And I do think this is the right time, actually, to have you on the show because you've been really shifting and changing what you're doing. And obviously, as coaches and business owners, we're doing that all the time. But it's going to be very interesting to talk about your more recent shifts because that's very aligned with coach and obviously my own beliefs. But first of all, just introduce yourself, Gemma, in your own words, and just tell the listeners who you are and what you're all about.
Yeah, lovely. I'm so happy to be here to have this conversation with you. So as Teresa said, I am an online business mentor with loads of experience around that, certified mindset coach and energy practitioner with my own energy clearing method. And my focus really is on helping women who may have dimmed their light, given their power away, to turn that back on and really step into being the lighthouse that they were destined to be and create that ripple effect. And I do that by helping them to grow and scale a soul aligned business. And for me, that's the key thing. And that's why I bring all of those elements of, yes, business strategy and knowing the hows and what to do, but equally the mindset shifts, the energetic shifts that allow them to kind of fully step into their power and align the business with them instead of the other way around. And so that's really my focus as I'm moving forward with the business.
And it's lovely. And there's some words in there that we hear a lot there. We've got soul, we've got aligned, we've got all those nice vibes going on. But sometimes people don't really know what that means until they actually get there. And then they're like, oh, I feel so aligned now.
Yeah.
So what are some of the signs, would you say, of misalignment, really? I mean, it's interesting that you've brought in the energy work, which I'm also super passionate about, the mindset work, and then on top of the mentoring, because I'd love to hear what you think some of those symptoms, if you like, are of too much strategy, you know, a lot of how, and, you know, not really enough of the kind of being and experiencing and doing. So what do you think to all that, Gemma?
Yeah, totally. So I think the way for me that tends to show up, and this is definitely how it showed up as me, like I'm modeling the journey that I've been through. I was very much for most of my career, I worked in very male-dominated industries, and certainly for the first sort of 5-6-ish years of this business, I was in my masculine. And so I was push, achieve the next thing, achieve the next thing, achieve the next thing, right? So I was constantly, and it was all very, very monetary driven. Now, don't get me wrong, money is really important, but it creates things rather than it being the destination. And the thing that kind of came up for me was I was getting the goals, but I just wasn't feeling content. I wasn't feeling fulfillment in that. And I see that with my clients is they're reaching the goals and then they feel empty, or they're rushing to the next goal without sitting with the, oh my God, I've just achieved this thing that was a massive dream, and just sitting with that and in gratitude and enjoying it and rushing to the next thing, which is always a flag for me. Or they're not even getting to their goals and they are just trying to shoehorn themselves into things they think they should be doing because that's what people are talking about on the internet. And so they're literally copying strategies and tactics that do work for other people but may not work for them, and it's just not aligned with who they are, how they need to show up, how their clients need them to show up. And so there's a real disconnect. And so if people are kind of pushing through and using those strategies, that's when they're not working. And the sad thing with that is what I'm sure you see this all the time as well. They end up blaming themselves. So it moves into, there's something wrong with me. Everyone else is out there making these strategies work. I'm not, there's something wrong with me. And then that makes them go inward and insular. Some of them step back when actually it's just the wrong strategy for them. And they needed to find the alignment and step into the one that was them. So it's kind of, those are the flags that I look for. Certainly those are the things that I saw in myself and what I see in my clients.
And it's interesting because perhaps a lot of people wouldn't think that they were symptoms. They're just literally believing, I can't do this, it's not working, etc., etc. And the thing is, there, you mentioned energy, you mentioned obviously masculine and feminine energy, and there's a lot of talk around that at the minute, and I think that's a really, really important area. But a lot of people perhaps wouldn't understand what divine feminine and masculine is. And so from my perspective as well, I just call it balance. It's like being in balance with yourself, and there's obviously the different energies that you work with in that way. And that masculine energy, so resonate with that, because I came from exactly the same kind of background, and I almost feel like this industry and becoming a coach and doing the work that I'm doing has been breaking my back somewhat, and obviously cracking open a new version of me. And so, yes, you do feel those things. You're just driving and striving to make the money or to produce, or, you know, it's a very productive energy, a fire energy, and we need it.
Yeah.
But that celebration side that you talk about, Gemma, that celebration of self. I remember one time it was New Year, and I said to a client, I just want you to write down a list of all the amazing things you've achieved this year. She said, what do you mean? I said, well, just, write it down, all the lovely things. I don't feel very comfortable doing that. I said, why not? Oh, it just makes me feel really uncomfortable. I don't think I can do it. Anyway, it took her ages to actually sit to write the list. And I was thinking, this is interesting, because I could see everything she'd done was brilliant.
Yeah.
And so there's that reluctance. And so what I hear you're talking about is that balance, that bit's missing. Yeah. But then, of course, that's the bit we need to feel good, to feel aligned, and to make that all worthwhile. So when we hit the goals, we still have that yay, and it's sort of expansive rather than, oh, was that it? Oh, cool. What next then? Maybe the next thing will make me feel amazing. Yeah, that wasn't enough. I think I'll do more. Exactly. And so it's fascinating, isn't it?
Exactly that. And for me, it means that there's never a destination where they feel completely whole and completely fulfilled. And that breaks my heart. Because if you're constantly stuck in that push, next thing, and not stopping to appreciate and show gratitude and really appreciate the efforts and everything that you've done, then you're never going to feel that amazing fulfillment. And it's a long old journey doing that. And that is exactly where I was stuck. And the thing with this as well, and you mentioned it around the importance of balance. It's not about not being in your masculine and stepping fully into your feminine. We have to have both. It's the yin and the yang. It's balance. But for many of us, we get too stuck into our masculine. We don't step into the feminine. And that's what makes us push. And the two work so beautifully together. You need the doing and you need the being. You need the planning and all of the stuff that goes with that, as well as the sitting in the energy, the thinking about, okay, how do I need to show up as this? How do I fully embody the things that I need to do as part of this strategy that I've just created? And so marrying those two things together creates such a power. And I think that's when you start to get that alignment, because they work so beautifully together. And equally, some can be too far in their feminine, with not enough of the doing. And we see that as well. And so it's about recognizing that and finding the balance and thinking about, how does that show up for me to best support me in whatever my goals are moving forward?
And for anyone listening, they're probably thinking, that's me, or that's me. Finding that when you hear other people talking about it, this is why these conversations are so important, especially for women, because a lot of that is survivor mode. A lot of that masculine energy is survivor mode. I must survive, and that comes from a lot of difficult previous places. And you just keep playing out all of these patterns. And then, of course, it's interesting you mentioned the over feminine. We might say, well, is that possible? But it is possible, and we see it, and maybe even feel it ourselves sometimes in phases, because it's that sort of leaning into complete, actually it's disempowering, and there's no action, and you haven't got the fire to actually put a rocket on anything to make anything happen. And it's all of the manifestation and all of the feelings and all of the and so you're right, definitely, that the yin and the yang, which is age old, isn't it? But and you start to really, I think people again start asking that question, well, how do I do that? And then that's interesting as well, because it's like, well, you can do the strategy and know the how, but then the other bit isn't really a how piece. So I guess that's where your mindset work has come in. And it kind of leads me to ask you, between consulting and coaching, and then we're talking about mindset work, I say recently, I'm not sure, last couple of years or something, you've certified as a mindset coach and moved into that as well. How are you experiencing your clients differently as a result of that?
That's a great question. Do you know what? I see signs in them that I never used to see before. And I can pick up on some kind of roadblock or something getting in their way so much sooner than I used to. And so for me, it's, although I'm still doing all of the strategy stuff and all of that is still obviously happening, but for me, it's nuances in conversations, and I can also feel it through their energy. I can pick up on something that's going to hold us back in the strategy side, and then dive into that and be able to deal with that quite quickly, relatively. Obviously, change doesn't happen quickly in all cases, but I can dive into that element. And so I can bring the two sides together really beautifully. And that has created such deeper work. And that's sort of specifically with my one-to-one clients who are definitely seeing quicker results, because I'm able to deal with these things as we move along, as we move through the strategy. But, even with things like my membership, right, where I can't get stuck in and do the mindset work as I might do with a one-to-one client. But, even with that, I do group calls every week with them where they come and they ask me questions, and it's predominantly strategy and tactical stuff in those sort of scenarios. But the questions that I ask them when they come to me with a question, the coaching I can step into that then lights a light bulb and has them going away going, oh my God, that's what it is. It's those as well. So it's being the mentor. It's being the one to tell them what to do, because I have the experience and all of that. But it's also being able to be the coach and ask the right question. Like, I can ask one question and it's like, boom. That's it. That's lit something up. So there's a depth to it. There's a depth to the work that I'm doing now with adding this into the mix.
And it's so interesting, isn't it, that you say it's the nuances, it's the way that you can spot different things, it's the language, it's the patterns that before, when you're just focusing on, I'm not minimalizing it, when you're just focusing on strategy, that's what you're thinking about, and missing all the clues. They're all just like going in front of you. And so what do you think, what's your opinion, Gemma, on people that say, well, you don't need to train to be a coach?
I've always disagreed with that, actually, before I trained to be a coach myself. I think coaching and mentoring and consulting are such different modalities. And from what I understand from coaching, and the difficulty in this online space is people use the words interchangeably, and they say coach when they mean mentor, and they say coach when they mean consultant, which really confuses things. But to be a coach, I think you need to train in it. It's not something that's natural. Like to be a mentor, to be a consultant, you can learn the strategies, you can learn the frameworks, you take your experience and you pass that on and you tell people. To be a coach you have to know the right things to ask and the right things to use in certain situations. And I think, whether it's mindset coach or whether it's a coach, I truly believe that you need to learn how to do that, because it's a skill. I don't think it's a skill that comes naturally to us.
No, and I think even if it does, because let's be honest, there's some people, in fact, a lot of us would be, quite skilled coaches unknowingly. So
Yes.
maybe in our life, we've been that type, we have lots of skills like empathy, understanding, listening, but we're not aware that they are coaching skills.
Yeah.
So a lot of people will say, yes, but I'm a natural coach, or I've been coaching for years. Okay, but have you just been talking, understanding, listening well, and finding solutions, which again is all coaching, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I think the conversation we just had a few minutes back about the difference, the way that you've experienced your clients differently, shows, I think, without a doubt, that there is a difference in the skills, because you're the perfect example in my book of who has been a excellent business mentor, strategist, then has done training and advanced, and then gone, oh, that's good, that's different, and I can add that in, and actually seen it and experienced it.
Yeah.
So obviously, I agree with that completely anyway. But I think it's an interesting question to chew on, because a lot of people still don't, although I do feel that energy changing. I do feel that more and more people are aware of it. And it's a little bit of just, again, it's splitting, isn't it? You split the wheat from the chaff. Some people do, some people don't. And no one's doing anything wrong. Yeah, because it is completely unregulated. So I always say this is not a judgment conversation, because there's nothing to say that, but it's about ethics. And this leads me to talk to you about the Lighthouse Academy, which sounds lovely, doesn't it? It sounds really nice as well, because you've been doing something around this, which must have, this must have come perhaps from your experience. It all feels beautifully connected as to what you've then done next. Tell us a bit about the Lighthouse Academy and how that fits in with this conversation.
Well, you know what? I just want to go back to the start of all of that, the start of the Lighthouse, the start of my mindset coaching qualification, the start of me learning how to work with energy and how to use energy. And that all came from me, what we were talking about earlier, starting to feel really unfulfilled in my business. Now, my business was doing brilliantly. My growth trajectory was like that. I doubled revenue every year for 5 years. I was on my way easily to getting 7 figures that year in my business. And then all of a sudden I was like, I'm not feeling this. And I started to feel broken. I wasn't burnt out, because I think a lot of people are claiming to be burnt out when it's, it's a medical condition. I was close to it though. I think my body was giving me signals. I had some gut health issues. I had started to get adrenal fatigue, and everything just went stop. And so I stopped, and it was scary, and I gave up. I had a mastermind that was bringing in probably about 200K a year, stopped it to free up some space. I just completely pulled back. Funnily enough, this was 2020, before the pandemic hit. I'd made these decisions. And it was through that, and I was like, I'm going to give myself some space, and I'm just going to step back and just look at everything. I'm going internal, I'm going external. And so as part of that, obviously I was doing the inner work, just looking at me and what I needed and how I wanted to develop, and realized that I wanted to show up differently. And maybe that means learning some new things. And I think even when we've been in this, doing business for 22 years, and even though I've been in this online space for 8 years, I think we all need to be humble enough to realize there's always more that we can learn. And I just thought, you know what, I want to go head in a different direction. I want to go deeper. And then as part of that, I was looking at the online space and getting really triggered by unethical practices, people not delivering on promises, women particularly getting ripped off, and like all of their savings being used to invest in things and then not getting results. And don't get me wrong, I think there's a difference between people investing and not getting what's promised, and people investing and not getting results because they haven't done the work.
Indeed.
So that, being self-led and showing up and doing the work and taking the action is really important. But equally, there's a lot of people investing stuff where they're not delivering. And I was getting triggered while I was doing all of this and I was learning my mindset coaching certification, and I was getting more and more kind of worked up about it. Got to points where I was thinking, you know what, I'm just not even going to bother with the online industry anymore. It's going in a direction I don't agree with. It feels really horrible. I don't want to be part of the problem. And then there was part of me that just went, we'll be part of the solution then. And it was a real moment. I'm getting goosebumps now. It was a real moment of, oh, I could be part of the solution then. Like, how could that work? And I just thought, you know, I have all these frameworks that are proven. I have always prioritized integrity. Have I made mistakes? Yes, absolutely. Of course I have. I'm not squeaky clean, but I've learned from them. And as a company, we've always prioritized ethics and integrity. And all of my strategies have always been built on results, proven results, you know, doing things in an ethical way. And I thought, okay, well, why don't I move away from a personal brand? Because that was a real realization that I didn't want to be. I'd created a personal brand that was out there, that was amazing. And I didn't want that, because I'm an introvert and I'm much happier behind the scenes. So I thought, why don't I create a company that it's me, it's the founder, but it's us. I'm creating this for the people that join, that want to be part of this movement of creating ethically led online business solutions. And so that's where the Lighthouse came from, shining the light on ethical ways to grow business online. And then as part of that thinking, I thought, well, all of these frameworks that I have across business, marketing, because I used to be a marketing professional. My first business was a digital marketing agency. Maybe I train people. Maybe I train people to use these things, these ethical ways of growing business, and that's my ripple effect. So I both do it within the academy and everything we do. So everything all of our trainings, everything we're doing is being CPD accredited. We're also going for other accreditations, just to kind of have that mark to show that we're showing up with excellence, and we're training in the right way, and we're teaching results-driven things, and we're delivering on our promises. But how about I train people to do that as well? And that's where my conscious consultant certification came from. So what I was seeing a lot of online business coaches in our industry.
Gemma's doing air quotes, by the way, because we're on the podcast.
Yes. Some of them coaches, some of them not, most of them without the experience to really put them in a position to be able to do that. Now, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of people that are business coaches that have done phenomenally well in this online space, right? Who, you know, have grown to ridiculous amounts, like amazing results in their businesses, which I look at with nothing but admiration. But then the difficulty is when they then turn that into being a business coach and try to teach people the same way, it's so nuanced, because their way doesn't always fit other people, and they don't know any other way because they've never learned any other way, and they haven't worked with thousands of businesses to understand the nuances and what works and what doesn't. And it's very much kind of following a blueprint formula. This is how I got here. This is how you can get here, following this same method, which doesn't work for a lot of people. And it was kind of trying to turn that on its head and teaching those. So having those online business coaches come to me and learn a different way of doing it. So I teach frameworks, so they have choices within it. So my consultants can go out and kind of work with someone, understand their goals, and say, okay, how about this way? And how about this? And that's the difference, I think, between working with frameworks and working with methods and blueprints and so on. And so I wanted to kind of create that ripple effect. So both the Lighthouse Business Academy and the Conscious Consultant certification were sort of born in January of this year, and I've been sort of growing that ever since. And it's something I'm really, really proud of, and it's already having a really lovely ripple effect.
We talked a little bit about alignment earlier on, and this is what I'm feeling. So, you know, as you're talking, and I can see Gemma because we're recording this on video as well, and I can see and feel the alignment. And this is when we were talking about that earlier. This is what it's about. It's about what you really believe and what you love coming together with something that is really, you know, serving others, but also yourself as well. There's nothing wrong with that. And bringing that, and you know, you've got a big smile on your face, and it just feels like such a good vibe. And so if anyone's wondering, well, you know, why can't I get aligned? those are the things that you need to think about, really, is what lights you up and what's going to actually put a rocket on as well, make it happen.
Exactly.
And bringing it together in that sort of service. And I just wanted to go back a couple of steps, if that's okay, to two words that are huge, and two words that I use a lot by myself and by many, many others: integrity and ethics. Now, these are just words. And what I may feel is integrity, and myself being in integrity, could be quite different to how you experience it, what you feel.
Yeah.
And so when we use this huge umbrella word, I think it's really important to understand, what you mean by that. And also, ethics is a little easier perhaps, but not always, because what I think is quite ethical, you might say, no, I don't think so. Yeah. And of course, as coaches, we are bound by, we've got an ethics framework, and you talk about frameworks. But of course, there's your personal ethics as well. There's your moral ethics, there's your compass. So let's talk about that for a minute. Let's go with integrity first, Gemma, and get your take on integrity, what that means to you in your business, and how will that actually manifest itself.
Yeah, I love this conversation. So for me, and the kind of the ethical focus really came out of our integrity as a company. And for me, integrity is about, a lot of the time it's about boundaries and understanding what you will do and what you won't do, and where your kind of guardrail is. And it's like you said, it's subjective, it's different for everybody. For us, it's about delivering on our promises. It's about doing what we say we will do. It's about honoring other people while also honoring ourselves. It's about having those really difficult conversations, even when you don't want to have them. It's about doing the right thing and making the right choices, not because it makes you look good. Like, it's the stuff you do in silence. It's the stuff you do behind the scenes I think that's where morality and ethics does come in, that are the right things to do. And so, with us as a company, we talk about this a lot behind the scenes, and what are our boundaries, and what will we do and what won't we do when certain things arise. So, if there's an issue with a client, what will we do if they have complained? What's our process for that? And we have a really, really clear process for that. And how, if a client comes to us, for example, this happened a lot, obviously, in 2020 and 21, we have over 300 women working with us in various capacities. And a lot of them came to us in that time really broken, and they're struggling with life because of what's happening with the pandemic, not because of their business. It was what we did in those moments. It was decisions that we decided to make in those moments, how we would support, how we show up as a company. And for me, that was our integrity. And it's also, the more obvious things of being honest, being truthful with the messaging that you're putting out, the numbers that you're putting out, the claims that you're making, the offers that you're putting out, and not over-egging it just to get the sale. Our policy actually is to under-egg, so that people are constantly surprised when they get in and start working with us, and like, oh my God, I didn't realize you had this much in here. It's all of those things. And it's how that, for me, it's how that shows up in your business. And it's as you've probably picked up in me talking about this isn't about me. This is about us as a company. This is me. This is my team. This is everything that we will do and we won't do. And I'm open to discussing it with my team. It's not me just saying, right, these are the rules, you follow them. We have discussions about what is right and what is wrong as our company. And it's important. It's hard. It's really hard. But it feels really important.
I think that's why it's a sticky subject sometimes, because it's not easy to have integrity all the time. And it is easy to slip out of that sometimes. And again, to know that that's happened and go, oh, geez, and it links really closely, I think, with with your values, because obviously it's you at the core of what you're doing, no matter how many people are there. And then if those people are aligned with your values, that will be fairly easy for you to all stay in integrity. But then if you have someone with a different set of values rolling around in the middle of it, then that can cause problems as well. And I think ultimately it's connected with that, you know, from my opinion, but it's kind of like, you know, what we feel, what we think, and what we do, all lines up. Because sometimes we might think something, we're like, I don't know if that's quite the right thing to do. Oh, but I go and do it anyway.
Yeah.
So therefore, to me, that's out of integrity, because you know that's not right. And yeah, there could be a big fat deal sitting on the table and you might really, really want it. But you might actually also know that that client is not right, that it's not for any reason, it's not going to gel properly. And so the integrity piece for me there is to turn that down, to say, no, this isn't really aligned. This isn't going to be the best thing for both of us. Of course, it's painful if you have to do that, because it's a client and it's a business. But what I think would be more painful is to go through that, and then it starts getting really spiky, difficult, because it will, because energetically it's just not.
Always will. Always will.
And you're like, oh, it just wasn't worth the money. Wasn't worth the hassle. You hear people say that. It just wasn't worth it. And so that's integrity to me, in terms of, you know, thinking something, feeling something, and then taking the action that does align with that, whether it's comfortable, like you say, that's not easy, or not. And I think some people may talk about integrity, and then you see something, or you may see something online, you're like, oh, I'm not sure about that. You know, it throws things into question. And so it is, I think it's also a very personal thing. I don't like to judge other people, just to discuss what I think it is.
It's very subjective. And you know what, interestingly, you talk about values. Integrity is our number one value, running through the company, and kind of what that means to us. And you see it in others, and for me it makes me question the person. You know, there are definitely, and it's not just the stuff you see out in the open. There are people doing things where they're showing this sort of outward persona, but behind the scenes they're attacking people and doing horrible things that are completely out of integrity and unaligned with what they're putting out to the outside world. And that's it. And I think you're absolutely right. It's getting all of those things aligned, and then sitting with that. And you know, your example about a client, that's exactly, you know, when I gave up that mastermind that was creating 200k a year, that was established, it was brilliant, it was in integrity for me to stop that, even though I gave up a chunk of money in 2020, when obviously we didn't know what was happening with the world. I couldn't have gone on with that feeling how I was feeling. And so that, for me, that's kind of a really nice example of that.
Yeah, it is, because those people, I mean, I'm sure initially they were like, oh, Gemma, please don't do this. But, you know, ultimately, I'm sure that they would thank you for that. And you know that, because if you're not feeling it, you're just not going to show up right. The minute you get that feeling that's like, oh, you know, not saying you ever had that, but, oh, you know, something that pulls at you, that drags you the wrong way. Again, it's just time to follow it. And this stuff is not easy. It's not easy, because it's much easier to ignore it, right? Let's be honest. It's much easier to just go, oh, it's fine, don't worry. Just do that, because it's great and it's easy and everyone loves it and I love it and it's not that bad and blah, blah, blah. But of course, ultimately, you would probably start to manifest problems in that space.
Completely.
You know?
And you know, that's what brings burnout. That's what brings you getting sick. Like all of those things. Yeah, completely. It all comes from that. And here's the interesting thing, and you'll love this from an energetic alignment point of view, because I know that you love this stuff too. Even though I gave that up, even though I stepped back, even though my primary revenue stream was a lower end membership for that year, which I loved and was in completely alignment with, and still am, even though it was 2020, my revenue for that year didn't change. It stayed.
I knew you were going to say that.
And it was like, wow, I worked less, I reduced this, I did all of these other things, yet the revenue stayed the same. And then this year has gone up quite dramatically. It's alignment. Energetic alignment is everything.
It's key, because that part there that's the feminine part there. the trusting, the knowing.
Yeah.
Because when you look deeply into the feminine and masculine energetics, the masculine trusts the feminine.
Yeah.
So the masculine will say, okay, let's go for it. Let's do it. I'll give you the fire. Let's go. And so it trusts the feminine to know where it's going. Do you know what I mean? Because that's what it provides. And so when you don't lean into that and you don't start listening to that, even though it's really hard, because you might feel, especially the survivors and providers may feel, well, I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
I've got to be doing something. It's really hard to do that stopping thing. So just to give a real life example to the listeners, that's what it is. It is that stopping when you just feel not quite right. It is that letting something go, and it's that trusting yourself. If I can sit with this and it's uncomfortable as hell, the answers and the next step will come. Yeah. And then you can go back to your masculine and say, hey, wake up, we're ready to go. And then obviously there it goes. And then you can move those two things together. Now, I think depending on what kind of woman you are, you know, what experiences you've had, what kind of business you've got, where you're heading, your complete uniqueness, that can be a tough old road, that alignment. That can be really difficult. And I've found that in my own journey. I don't mind saying I found that to be unexpected, shall we say.
Then you question everything.
Yeah.
Oh, it's messy.
And then you can't unknow either. So then you're like, oh, maybe I could go back to when it was a bit more easy and I just did all strategy.
There's no return.
No, you can't unknow it now. You have to continue the path. No return. And so that can be the very difficult thing, because this alignment, we possibly make it sound so attractive and beautiful. And now you're working less and making more, and we see these messages.
Let's not make it this beautiful soft thing.
It's not though, Gemma. It's not though, Gemma. I haven't experienced it like that, and I'm still experiencing it, of course. And I have found it to be difficult, confronting, messy, liberating, freeing, painful, up and down, roundabout.
All of those things. And I'm still in it as well, honey.
Yeah, of course.
I'm still in this.
We're all still in the river, aren't we? It's just different points. And I have found that journey since I started coaching to be not what I expected, more than I expected, probably more than I could have hoped for, but also seeing so many things that I would have said to myself, sorry, how is that connected again? You know, and I've got to go and think about that. Why? But knowing innately inside of me that it is all connected. And of course I simplify it like that, just because I know people feel like that. They're like, what do you mean? How is that connected to that? But it's that exploration, that examination that brings it forward. So I love everything that you're doing together. I think that, you know, integrity piece is important for people to think about. What's my integrity? How do I sit with that? Do I do as I say, as I feel, as I am? Is all that in alignment? Because it's not always, we're not perfect, we're imperfect. But we should be able to feel it in our guts when we're out of integrity. We should get that thing, whatever it is. It's that, isn't it?
It's reading the signs, because sometimes we might not know. Sometimes you might be a little bit blinkered. I think there are times definitely I was. And will I always get this right? No, no, absolutely
not. We can't.
Exactly. It's impossible. But I think just kind of learning what it means to you and how you want to show up in integrity is really, really important. And that is all about taking, as you said, your own interpretation of it and just understanding what that can look like for you and how you want to show up. And I think it adds a certain element of power to us when we're clearer on that, what we will do, what we won't do.
There's
how
nothing
we'll
worse
show up, how we won't show up, all of those things. Do you know, one of the nicest compliments I always get, and this has been the same in my first business, which was, probably about 16 years ago now, which was a digital marketing agency. And still to this day, one of the biggest compliments I ever get is when I finally meet someone, or we go on a Zoom call and we have a conversation and they say to me, oh my God, you're exactly the same person that I read the emails from. You're exactly like your blog post. Oh my God, you're just like your talk on your podcast. It's like I already know you. That is me and my integrity. Like that, if I get that flag, if anyone said to me, oh my God, you're a completely different person to who I thought you were going to be. I'd be like, whoa, okay, I need to look at something.
Red flag. Yeah.
I know I've got something wrong here. But that for me is it in action.
And I think that's interesting, because that's not a space that a lot of female entrepreneurs come from. You know, they're not used to being that way. And I certainly know my clients will sort of struggle with, well, I don't really want to talk about that or share that or do that or they've got a very professional background, which I also understand, because I came from that. When I first came into the coaching space, I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm comfortable with all of this like this. And so it really takes time. And I think that honesty piece, that's the other word, is honesty. And, you know, being honest with yourself about this is difficult or easy, or how I feel, that self-inquiry, because otherwise you can't take your clients anywhere, because you haven't been there, because you're too uncomfortable, perhaps you're too awkward, so that's fine, explore it, but then don't try and take other people down that path, you know, without knowing, without having your light in front of them, I think. And that brings us back to the Lighthouse Academy. So of course now you've got the Consistency Club, which I've seen and loved. That's amazing. And you've got the Online Business Consultants Certification. Now, we talked about coaching and consultancy. So, and you talked about a framework. So I think we've got the reference of that, is that you're helping people to become certified in how to run an online business using frameworks.
So they're basically becoming certified as an online business consultant, so they can then go out and help online business owners to grow their business using my methods. So and actually it's really unique, because it merges both the strategy, and the frameworks and all of that stuff. So I teach them exactly how to do that. I also have my energy clearing method in there. So I'm merging energy clearing with strategy, so that you were talking earlier about when I'm working with a client one-to-one and we're working on strategies and there's a flag, and I can do something to help with that, with the mindset, with the energy. The energy clearing method helps my consultants do that as well. So, you know, if something comes up, they can help clear it as they're moving through. So I certify them to use those methods with online business owners. So the people that works with, I get people that are already online business coaches that want those frameworks just to take their business to another level. I get other coaches, so life coaches, mindset coaches. I've had ex-corporate people. I have had VAs, marketing strategists, branding people. So it's kind of, it gives them another string to their bow. It gives them a whole new skill set to take what they're already doing to a whole other level with entrepreneurs and online business owners. So it's been really great rolling that out this year. It's been an amazing experience.
Exciting. It sounds exciting. It sounds like, you know, as it evolves, you know, you kind of like can really see what's what. But I love the fact that there's a framework in there, because a lot of people find it difficult to create their own frameworks. And, you know, the message is, go create your own products, create your own programs, create your own frameworks, your own IP. Now, listen, if you haven't had any kind of experience in doing that, but you're really brilliant at what you do, that can sometimes be really difficult to package that up and put that into. Hard. So a lot of the work I do with my clients is helping them to get it out of their head and put it into nice modules and programs and products, because that doesn't come easily. You know, it's a creation piece. And so I think that sounds well, it's obviously going really well, and it kind of works well for you and it works well for them. What's the difference between that and the conscious consultant?
That's what it's called.
So it's the same thing. I beg your pardon.
So it's called conscious consultant certification, but I'm certifying them as an online business consultant.
Right. Oh, so it's all in one. Lovely. Sounds amazing. And the fact that you've got the accreditation there, obviously the CPD, that's amazing. And you talked about other accreditation. What are you? Do you mind me asking what you're exploring? I knew you were going to ask me this, and I can't remember the name of it. There's another one. There's another one. It's IAP, something like that. It's specifically for mentoring and coaching. And so what they do, where the CPD, we're going through it at the moment actually. So where the CPD, you submit your program and then they take it through their rigorous process, which is quite, it's quite a lengthy process to get it ready. It takes about 2 months, I think, roughly, for them to go through it. So I should be having my accreditation through for the certification soon. The other one
they accredit me first as a mentor through their system, and then once I am, then they can accredit my programs and things. So I'm going through that as well.
Yeah,
I will
exciting.
also, really exciting. I will also be looking at other accreditation services, because I just really believe in getting that rigorous process and to prove that it's basically it's fit for purpose, and then it's doing what we say.
Confidence, isn't it? Gives people confidence. And I think actually it gives you confidence, us confidence, everyone, that, you know, this is what's gone through. And that's the integrity piece as well. That's the ethics. And we know there's lots of programs out there that are not anything, or even accreditations have been set up themselves by some various people on no-name boards, and you're like, if you dig into that and you look and you find those, I would say be warned, because who are those people? Who are they? You know, you might even find out that it's someone's dad and then their aunt and then someone else.
I completely agree. And I think there's going to be some more accreditation services popping up that we just need to be really wary of for that reason, because I think it's self-serving. It's kind of, they can accredit their own stuff, so they can use the word accreditation, and then other people will want to accredit through them and pay them money, when actually it probably doesn't mean anything. So for anyone looking at accreditation, go through the right channels. Like if you're a coach, then obviously you've got the coaching accreditations who are amazing.
It's not difficult to find the accreditations. We've got main bodies in the coaching industry. Just take one of those programs. That's it. You don't, taking other ones is like at your own risk, if you ask me. And that's pretty much all I ever stand for with coach, is saying take an accredited coaching basic qualification, and then add as many bells and whistles as you want. But you know, don't, and I think that's a be warned sign there, really, which we're talking about, because I've experienced that, definitely seen people that are wanting to certify coaches as, you know, authentic or approved, and I'm like, who are you, what are you doing, and what? No, not really.
And you know that's why it's so important. Sorry to chat over you. That's why it's so important for me to get my accreditations, because you know, yes, the reason I've been able to do this is I've got years of proven experience. I've got like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of doing this, working with thousands of clients with repeated results. I still feel like, for all those reasons you just said, who am I to say that you are now certified in this when I haven't had this thing rigorously tested from an external body? Like, I might think it's brilliant, but actually I need someone else who actually knows. That's why we went with the CPD, because it's you know, professional training and services and development. And that's why that was my first one, because I was like, right, let's get it through their rigorous process. At least we then know it is fit for purpose. It's a professional development program that they have approved. And then let's look at the other ways we can accredit it to help us, and also to help our consultants to say, right, I am certified and it's through this, but it has this accreditation, it has this, and it has this, to help them to make their clients feel comfortable.
It's like if you went to college and there was a great tutor, and brilliant tutor, and you're like, I love this tutor, they're so good, they've been tutoring for years, etc. And then you did a course with the tutor, and they're like, you know, what do I, you know, get at the end of my course? And they're like, oh, well, just a certificate from me. What does that mean I can do? Well, I don't know, whatever you want, you know, but I'm a brilliant tutor and you'll learn loads. And that's true. But it's the same kind of thing, is that, you know, you want to be able to take these things and go forth yourself. And again, it just brings it back to frameworks. And, you know, we may verge on sounding a bit preachy here, but it's not that. It's really not. It's about alignment, and bringing it back to what we, you know, finishing where we started. It's about alignment. It's about feeling your way, following your heart, and bringing in the things that you can bring in to sit in integrity in your business, to serve other people well, and also serve yourself well. And there's nothing wrong with that, and celebrate it as well.
Exactly that.
And I'm sure you do all of that extremely well. You know, evidence to all of that. You know, and I think it's lovely that you've created these different threads all together now and found those new ways, that real sort of evolution. And I just say that because I remember I used to sit in my car and listen to you talk about social media.
Yes.
And it was when social media wasn't really huge.
It was. That's what my agency really focused on. That was the agency day.
Yeah. And I remember being ever so interested. And I remember also thinking, oh, I love the way that she's so out there. She just says what she thinks. And I remember even back then you were talking about some people that had copied you or were just kind of like covering your stuff. And, you know, just your approach to it was very authentic. So as I may have come into the coaching industry post that, you're one of the people that I remember pre that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I know that you are, you know, full of integrity and just definitely walk the walk. So it's just been an absolute pleasure to talk to you today. I hope that people have enjoyed this conversation and it's dropped some little light bulbs. Where can people connect with you, Gemma, if they would like to find out more?
Thank you. It's been a joy to be here. Actually, I love this conversation. Yeah, you can go to gemmawent.co.uk. That's the best place to start.
Perfect. And it's all on there. And I know because I was having a good look through this morning and it's not the first time I've had a good rummage. So thank you so much. Keep doing what you're doing and good luck with the Lighthouse Academy and all the lucky people that you're going to help. So it's a pleasure to have you, Gemma. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.